The dream that touches the stars. It was a starry night in 1995, and a 12-year-old boy named Joan was sitting in his backyard, his eyes fixed on the night sky. In his small, anxious hands, a worn book about space exploration told stories of brave astronauts and impossible missions. The book had been a gift from his grandfather, a man who lived through the era of the first space missions and used to tell, with bright eyes, what it was like to watch the first man stepping on the moon on television in 1969. On that specific night, something magical happened. While flipping through the worn pages of the book, Joan saw a shooting star cutting across the sky. At that moment, he made a wish that would change his life forever. I want to help humanity reach the stars. Little Joan didn't know it, but that wish planted a seed that would grow far beyond his boldest dreams. Today, 30 years later, Joan is no longer that dreamy boy in the backyard. He has become one of SpaceX's leading engineers, the company that is rewriting the history of space exploration. But the most fascinating thing is that the sparkle in his eyes remains exactly the same as that night in 1995. The difference is that now, instead of just dreaming about the stars, he actively works to reach them. Joan's journey to SpaceX wasn't easy. During his teenage years, while other young people dreamed of more conventional careers, he devoured books about physics and astronomy. His school colleagues often mocked his crazy dreams of building rockets. But Joan had something that many didn't, an unshakable determination and the ability to see beyond the horizon. This story I'm about to share with you isn't just about Joan. It's about every person who has ever looked at the sky and felt that inexplicable connection with the unknown. It's about the pioneers who came before us, about the dreamers who refused to accept limitations, and about the future we're building together. Think with me. Just 120 years ago, the Wright brothers made the first powered flight in history. It was 12 seconds in the air, covering less than 40 meters. Today, we're designing spacecraft capable of taking humans to Mars. The speed of this evolution is simply impressive. It's as if humanity was running a space marathon, and SpaceX decided to make a final sprint toward the stars. But before we dive into the technical details and SpaceX's impressive achievements, we need to understand why this journey is so important for humanity. Have you ever stopped to think that we are the first generation in human history with the real capability to make life multiplanetary? This isn't science fiction. It's the reality unfolding before our eyes. In 2002, when Elon Musk founded SpaceX, many thought it was madness. The space market was dominated by government giants and corporations established for decades. It was as if someone decided to compete with the ocean in depth. It seemed impossible. But sometimes it takes a little madness to change the world. The Starship, SpaceX's most ambitious project to date, represents much more than just a rocket. It is the result of decades of technological evolution, thousands of hours of hard work, and above all, the courage to dream big. When we talk about Starship, we're talking about a machine that defies everything we knew about aerospace engineering. To understand the magnitude of this project, we need to go back in time a bit. In the 1960s, during the space race, the United States spent the equivalent of hundreds of billions of current dollars to reach the moon. Each Saturn V rocket used in the Apollo missions could only be used once. It was like building a brand new Boeing 747, using it for a single trip, and then throwing it into the ocean. SpaceX revolutionized this concept with the idea of reusable rockets. It's as if we had finally learned to make space planes that can take off and land as many times as needed. This not only drastically reduces the cost of space missions, but also opens doors to something much bigger, the colonization of other planets. The Starship is like a modern cathedral of engineering. Imagine a steel structure as tall as a 40-story building, but unlike a common building, it was designed to break through Earth's atmosphere and travel through the vacuum of space. Every detail, from the materials used to the aerodynamic design, was meticulously thought out to maximize efficiency and safety. The history of Starship's development is full of fascinating moments and valuable lessons. The first prototypes were so different from the current design that they seemed to belong to a completely different project. It's as if SpaceX was putting together a giant puzzle, but first needed to figure out what the final image would be. Joan, our engineer, was present for many of these crucial moments. He says that one of the most exciting days was when they managed to make the first prototype glide successfully. It was like teaching a building to fly, he says with a smile on his face. Many people thought it was impossible, but we proved them wrong. The process of creating Starship revolutionized not only how we build rockets, but also how we think about space exploration as a whole. Before SpaceX, the idea of reusable rockets was considered practically impossible. It was like trying to convince someone in the 19th century that we would one day have smartphones. It simply seemed too much like fiction. But this is where SpaceX's true genius comes in. They not only dreamed of the impossible, but found ways to make it reality. The company developed technologies that allow Starship to land vertically after a mission, something that just 2 decades ago would have been considered completely absurd. It's as if we were watching magic happen, except this magic is pure science and engineering. The team behind Starship isn't just building a rocket, they're creating a bridge to humanity's future. Every weld, every bolt, every line of code was thought out with one goal in mind: to make humanity a multiplanetary species. Is it an ambitious dream? Without a doubt. But it's ambitious dreams that move history forward. The impact of this mission goes far beyond space exploration. The technologies developed for Starship are already influencing other industry sectors. The advanced materials created to withstand extreme space conditions are being adapted for use on Earth. The ultra-efficient propulsion systems inspire new forms of clean energy. The control software developed for Starship is revolutionizing industrial automation. But perhaps the most inspiring aspect of this whole story is the effect it has on new generations. In schools around the world, children draw rockets in the corners of their notebooks, dreaming of one day working at SpaceX. Teachers use Starship launches as practical examples in physics and math classes. It's as if the space program had recovered that special shine it had during the Apollo missions. Jerome frequently visits schools to talk about his work at SpaceX. He says he always carries with him that same worn book he read as a child. "I want these children to understand that no dream is too big," he says. "If I, a boy who started just by looking at the stars from his backyard, managed to get here, imagine what they can achieve." And that's exactly what the Starship project represents: the human capacity to transform dreams into reality. Each test, each launch, each small advance brings us a little closer to the stars. It's as if we were writing, in real time, the most exciting chapters in the history of space exploration. If you're feeling inspired by this incredible journey, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. After all, this story is far from over, and you won't want to miss the next chapters of this adventure that's redefining the limits of possible. In the next part, we'll dive into the most fascinating technical details of Starship, discover how this marvel of modern engineering works, and understand why each challenge overcome brings us a little closer to the stars. Get ready because the story gets even more impressive. Part 2. The Challenges and Achievements. When the sun rises in Boca Chica, Texas, the imposing silhouette of Starship can already be seen on the horizon, like a steel giant preparing for another day of challenges. Jerome, our engineer, usually arrives very early, even before sunrise. "Each day here is a new opportunity to make history," he says, while walking through the control center, checking the systems that keep this engineering marvel running. But building the largest and most powerful rocket in history is not a task for the faint of heart. It's a journey filled with challenges that seem impossible to overcome. Let's dive into the backstage of this extraordinary adventure and discover how SpaceX is transforming the impossible into reality. First, we need to understand the magnitude of the challenge. Starship isn't just big, it's colossal. With its 33 Raptor engines working in perfect synchrony, each generating more power than a commercial jumbo jet. To give you an idea, if these engines were Formula One cars, we would have power equivalent to more than 500 of them working simultaneously. And you know what's more impressive? Each of these engines needs to function with millisecond precision. It's like trying to conduct an orchestra where each musician needs to play their part with absolute perfection, except instead of music, we're talking about controlled explosions capable of lifting 100 tons of payload into space. The story of Raptor engines development deserves its own chapter. The SpaceX team had to practically rewrite the entire propulsion engineering manual to create them. Imagine trying to do something that nobody has ever done before, something that many experts said was impossible. That's exactly what happened. Jerome recounts that during the first Raptor engine tests, the team faced challenges that seemed insurmountable. We had to develop new materials that could withstand extreme temperatures and unimaginable pressures, and he explains. It was like trying to build something that needed to survive hell and at the same time be light enough to fly. The numbers behind Starship are simply surreal. The fuel tank system, for example, needs to store and manage more than 3,000 tons of cryogenic propellant. It's like trying to maintain 3 Olympic swimming pools of liquid at temperatures near absolute zero, and on top of that, do it in something that needs to fly. But the challenges don't stop there. One of the most revolutionary aspects of Starship is its vertical landing system. Just imagine, we're talking about making a 40-story building land upright after having traveled through the stratosphere at speeds exceeding 20,000 kilometers per hour. It's like trying to make a pen stand on its tip, except the pen is 120 meters tall and is falling from space. The SpaceX team developed such an advanced control system that it needs to make millions of calculations per second to keep Starship stable during landing. It's like having a supercomputer playing 4D chess, where each move needs to be calculated with absolute precision, because the smallest error can mean the difference between a perfect landing and, well, you can imagine. And speaking of errors, here's something many people don't know. Each Starship failure in the initial tests was actually a disguised success. SpaceX adopts a unique development philosophy: fail fast, learn fast. It's like that famous Thomas Edison quote when he was inventing the light bulb: "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." John was present for many of these crucial moments. He especially remembers the day when the SN8 prototype made its first high-altitude flight. It was a breathtaking moment, he recalls. The rocket rose majestically, performed all planned maneuvers, and when it was about to land, well, let's say we learned a lot that day. What many people don't understand is that each spectacular explosion, or as the team prefers to call it, rapid unscheduled disassembly, provided invaluable data for Starship's development. Each test, successful or not, generated terabytes of information that were meticulously analyzed and used to improve the project. Starship's evolution is living proof of this iterative development philosophy. Each version incorporates improvements based on lessons learned from previous versions. It's like a gigantic scientific experiment in real scale, where each attempt brings us a little closer to perfection. One of the most fascinating aspects of the project is the thermal shield system. When Starship returns to Earth, it needs to withstand temperatures that can exceed 1,500 degrees Celsius. To put that in perspective, it's hotter than volcano lava during an eruption. The team developed a revolutionary system of thermal tiles that can withstand this extreme heat repeatedly. The manufacturing process of these tiles is so advanced that it seems like something out of a science fiction movie. Each piece is produced with microscopic precision, using materials that didn't even exist a few decades ago. It's like we're building a giant puzzle where each piece needs to be perfect, not just in form, but also in function. But perhaps the most revolutionary aspect of Starship is its orbital refueling system. Just imagine, we're talking about transferring hundreds of tons of cryogenic fuel from one rocket to another, in the vacuum of space, at orbital velocities. It's like trying to refuel a moving car, except the car is traveling at 27,000 kilometers per hour, and so is the gas station. The SpaceX team had to develop completely new technologies to make this possible. Automated docking systems, zero-gravity fuel management, sensors capable of functioning in extreme conditions. Each aspect required innovative solutions that had never been tried before. And you know what's most incredible? All these innovations have practical applications here on Earth. The technologies developed for Starship are influencing sectors ranging from medicine to clean energy production. It's as if each challenge overcome in space helps us solve problems down here. Joan frequently reflects on how the Starship project is changing, not just how we explore space, but also how we approach complex challenges. When you work on something that everyone says is impossible, he explains, you learn to see problems differently. There are no insurmountable obstacles, just solutions we haven't discovered yet. If you're fascinated by this incredible journey of overcoming challenges and innovation, Leave your comment telling us which aspect of Starship's development impressed you the most. Your opinion is very important to us. In the next and final part of this extraordinary story, we'll explore the future that awaits us. How will Starship transform not just space exploration, but all of human history? Get ready because the best is yet to come. Part 3, The Future That Awaits Us. As the sun sets in Boca Chica, casting long shadows over the Starship, Joan pauses for a moment to contemplate the horizon. After another intense day of work, he can't help but smile thinking about the future he's helping to build. You know, he says, adjusting his safety helmet, sometimes I need to pinch myself to believe we're really doing this. We're building the bridge to the stars. And he's right. Starship isn't just another rocket. It's the first chapter of a new era in human history. An era where traveling to other planets won't just be a science fiction dream, but a tangible reality. Let's explore together how this revolution will transform not just space exploration, but our entire civilization. First, we need to understand what it means to have a fully reusable and high-capacity space transportation system. Imagine a world where launching something into space is as common as sending a shipping container to the other side of the world. Starship is making this possible. With its capacity to transport 100 tons of payload and be reused multiple times, it reduces the cost of access to space to a fraction of what it was before. But the impact goes far beyond economics. Think about the possibilities this opens up for scientific research. Orbital laboratories the size of buildings, space telescopes larger than football stadiums, zero-gravity factories. All of this becomes possible when you have a reliable, high-capacity space transportation system. Joan says that one of the most exciting projects in development is the creation of a permanent lunar base. Starship was designed from the beginning with this in mind, he explains. We can use the same ship that carries astronauts and equipment as a habitat module on the lunar surface. It's like having a building that can fly to the moon and transform into a space house. The lunar base will be just the beginning. The real goal is Mars, and that's where Starship really shines. Its orbital refueling capability means we can send entire fleets of ships to the Red Planet. We're no longer talking about missions with just a few astronauts. We're talking about true colonizing expeditions. Imagine what the first human landing on Mars using Starship will be like. A 120-meter tall ship, softly descending on the Martian surface, carrying not just astronauts, but all the tools and equipment needed to start building a new home for humanity. It's like we're reliving the great expeditions of the past, except this time, our destination is the stars. And it's not just about Mars. Starship is opening up possibilities that previously seemed relegated to science fiction books. Asteroid mining, for example. With its enormous cargo capacity, Starship could bring back to Earth rare materials found in nearby asteroids. Imagine having access to practically unlimited quantities of precious metals and rare elements. This would revolutionize entire industries. But perhaps the most transformative aspect is the impact on our perspective as a species. When we have people living and working on other planets, our vision of what it means to be human will fundamentally change. The children of the future will grow up knowing they can choose which planet they want to live on. It's a paradigm shift as profound as the discovery that Earth wasn't the center of the universe. Joan likes to tell about a special moment he had recently. I was giving a lecture at a primary school, he recalls, and a little girl raised her hand and asked, not if we could go to Mars, but when she could sign up to be the first Martian teacher. That completely changed my perspective. For this new generation, it's not a question of if, but when. Starship's development is also driving advances in other areas of technology. Life support systems developed for long space journeys are being adapted to improve water and air treatment in polluted areas of Earth. Controlled environment growing techniques, necessary for producing food on Mars, are revolutionizing vertical farming in large cities. And we can't forget about the impact on communication. To maintain contact with future Martian colonies, we'll need to develop much more advanced communication systems than current ones. This means interplanetary internet, new types of satellites, and quantum communication technologies. It's as if Starship is pulling all of humanity into the future. But perhaps Starship's most important legacy is something less tangible: hope. In a world often dominated by news of crises and conflicts, Starship represents something different. It's proof that when we unite around a common goal, we can accomplish extraordinary things. It's a reminder that our species is capable of dreaming big and transforming those dreams into reality. Joan shares that he recently found his old astronomy book, the same one he used to read in the backyard as a child. You know what's most incredible? He says with a smile. Many of the things that seemed impossible in that book are just another day at work for us now. And that makes me think, what else can we achieve? The future that Starship is helping to build is more than just a technological achievement, and it's a new era for humanity. An era where the stars are no longer just points of light in the night sky, but reachable destinations. An era where being a multiplanetary species is no longer a distant dream, but a reality under construction. If this vision of the future excites you as much as it does us, don't forget to leave your like. Your support helps us continue bringing content about these incredible space adventures. And as the sun finishes setting in Boca Chica, casting its last rays on Starship, we can't help but think, we're living in a truly extraordinary time, a time where humanity's boldest dreams are becoming reality, one launch at a time. As Jerome always says before leaving, the best thing about space exploration isn't just reaching new places, it's discovering what we're really capable of when we dare to dream big. And you, what's your dream for the future of space exploration? What would you do if you had the chance to be part of this incredible journey? Leave it in the comments. Until the next video, and remember, the stars are no longer the limit. They're just the beginning of our next great adventure.